All right. I just want to go ahead and make this a fairly quick and brief video in regards to a conversation that I was having with a good friend of mine by the name of Jonathan. He lives back in my home state of Michigan, and we had a pretty big argument in regards to open and carrying and what a police officer had to say to him. Now, 9 times out of 10, most of these police officers have some sort of associate's degree or usually some form of bachelor's degree in criminal justice or things of that nature, whatever the case may be. But they've been, in my opinion, just as programmed as the average motherfucker out here, has been. We never, take the initiative to go actually and look at what the legal fiction or the legal person can and can't do, which is your Cesta trust account, which is your, essentially, is your limited liability company. And it's basically, it was a conversation where he was saying that common law didn't exist and that Michigan was not an open and carry. And I told him, I said, where did you hear that from? He said, well, a police officer friend of mine had told me that Michigan was no longer a open and carrying state. And I told him, I said, you've been sadly mistaken because Michigan, in fact, is not only an open and carry state, but it also allows you to open and carry without a permit or a license. Now, however, would I prefer to actually register my handgun? I probably would, more or less. But one of the things I will say that we have to do our own research. We can't just go off of whatever the fuck it is that we heard somebody say and just repeat shit, but we don't understand what it is that we're repeating because we haven't taken the time out and did the research. Now, it's essentially only 5 states that does not, I'm sorry, 6 states that does not allow open and carry. Those states are Illinois, New York, South Carolina, Florida, Texas, and California. And if you look at it, it's pretty much the highest states that have the most population, or and basically the body count. And I understand why they do that, especially in New York. I mean, hell, it's 8 million people that live in New York, and then California has, I believe, 7 million, and Illinois follows up shortly behind with maybe about 4 or 5 in terms of the major cities like New York, Chicago, Illinois, Los Angeles, California. Houston, Texas is the fourth largest city in the country, and then Miami, Florida. Maybe they might have what you would call like immigration concerns and shit like that with some of the things that was happening down there in the 80s in regards to minorities. We'll just leave it at that, but whatever the case may be. So I just want to go ahead and show you guys what the Michigan Constitution, state constitution, or the state of the corporation Michigan state constitution has to say about common law, as well as the right to open and carry. So the common law, this is from the Michigan State Constitution, or the state of the corporation, because as we know, all states, municipalities, or municipal cities, towns, townships, whatever the case may be, are all privately owned corporations. It clearly states in the State of Michigan Constitution, Article 3, Subsection 7, Common Law and Statutes Continuance. Section 7, the common law and statute laws now in force, not repugnant to this Constitution, shall remain in force until they expire by their own limitations or are changed, amended, or repealed. That's so that pretty much tells them right there that common law still does exist. Now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna find when it talks about the right to bear arms. I believe that's in Article 1, the Declaration of Rights. Here it goes right here. Article 1, Section 6. Look at this. Every person has the right to keep and bear arms for the defense of himself and the state. So essentially, your legal person does have the right, according to the 14th Amendment Corporation or Corporate Citizen Statutes of the State of Michigan, your legal fiction has a right to keep and bear arms for the defense of himself and the state. So my question is, why are you motherfuckers concealing your weapon if you have the right to keep it unconcealed? Another thing that I wanted to go ahead and review, because this word sovereign keeps coming up, and it's essentially telling people right here that the people are sovereign and not the state. Listen to this. The political power of the state of Michigan Constitution. It says, Article 1, Section 1. All political power is inherent in the people. Government is instituted for their equal benefit, security, and protection. Nothing more, nothing less. So basically, essentially, it's frustrating because whenever I hear, people talking about, well, they had to settle with them, or if somebody has some shit going on where a person's private rights or their civil rights or whatever the fuck the case may be, their constitutional rights, which you are not technically a party to, I'll explain that in a later video, gets violated, and I hear all of these fucking idiots talk about, well, they, but then when you ask them who is they, the fuck you mean who is they? The people make up the state of Michigan, not the fucking public or elected official or one of these rogue ass cops on the side of the fucking road, that have harmed somebody. So the taxpayers are the one that's paying out. Let's just get that correct. This is a lot of people that's going around talking about they. And then when you ask them who they is, nobody can give you a fucking answer because they don't even have a fucking clue as to what the fuck is really going on. So it's just, it's slightly frustrating, but this is just my little rant for the day, I would say, more or less. Just basically, bottom line, man, start doing your own research. Just do the tiniest of research. This is pretty much nothing, man. You got to start digging deep, man, so you can find out what it is that your corporation or your legal fiction can and can't fucking do, so you can stop getting locked the fuck up. Figure out what the fuck is going on so we can stop allowing these people to take advantage of us. It clearly states in the common law, in subsection 7, article 3, that there are two sets of laws. Why do you continue to want to be a goddamn 14th Amendment United States citizen? That's what I don't understand. Is it because you don't know, or is it because you're afraid, or whatever the case may be? Stop just going along to get along. Do some research, take some time out for yourself, and find out at least halfway what the fuck is going on. Because I promise you, once you just start doing the tiniest bit of research, you'll say, okay, well, if they can't do that, let me figure out what else that they are doing that they're not supposed to be doing. So, like I said, that's my rant for the day, but I just pretty much wanted to cover those three topics. Common law still does exist in the state of Michigan. The right to bear arms without having a fucking permit or without registering it does exist for your legal fiction. Your all capital letter name that you sign for whenever you get a fucking driver's license, you pay into Social Security, or you get a job and you pay taxes to the IRS. It is two of you. It's the public you and it's the private you. So that's it. That's my rant for today.